March 19, 1997. A man steps out of a helicopter 800 meters above the Indonesian jungle. 4 days later, what is left of him is found in a swamp. His thumbs are missing. His face is gone. His widow says it is not him, because the man who fell, or did not fall, was sitting on what he had told the world was the largest gold discovery in human history. 200 million ounces, $240 billion. More gold than had ever been mined in Canada. Except there was no gold. There was never any gold. And the $6 billion that vanished did not vanish because the system was fooled. It vanished because nobody in the system was paid to ask the obvious question. This is Bre-X. In 1993, Bre-X Minerals trades for 27 cents on the Alberta Stock Exchange. Its founder runs the company out of his basement in Calgary. He filed for personal bankruptcy 2 years earlier. In March of that year, he pays $80,000 for a concession in the Busang region of East Kalimantan, Indonesian Borneo. $80,000, the price of a used Honda Accord. He hires a Dutch-Canadian geologist named John Felderhoff. Felderhoff hires a Filipino field manager named Michael de Guzman. By late 1994, the first drill results come back. They are promising. By 1995, 3 million ounces. By 1996, 30 million ounces. By spring 1997, 200 million ounces. If true, it would be the largest gold deposit in human history, by a factor of 10. None of it is true. The stock goes vertical. 27 cents, $1, $10, $50. By May 1996, Bre-X trades at $286.50 a share. If you had put $100 into Bre-X in 1993, by spring 1996 it was worth $110,000. The Toronto Stock Exchange adds Bre-X to its main index. Every major Canadian pension fund buys in. Lehman Brothers rates it buy. JP Morgan rates it buy. Nesbitt Burns rates it buy. Suharto's family in Indonesia wants a piece. So does Bob Hassan, Suharto's golfing partner and the most powerful businessman in Southeast Asia. Bre-X is suddenly worth more than General Motors, a company that 3 years earlier was being run out of a basement. But here is what nobody is asking. The samples coming out of Busang are showing rounded gold particles. Round, smooth gold, like grains of sand. Hard rock gold has sharp edges. River gold is round. Any first-year geology student knows the difference. And by 1996, more than one geologist has noticed. They are told to stop asking. A senior assayer in Toronto runs Bre-X samples through her lab in late 1995. She notices the gold is morphologically wrong. She tells her supervisor. Her supervisor tells her to run the test again. She runs it again. Same result. Her supervisor tells her to lose the file. In Sydney, an Australian mining analyst writes a memo questioning Bre-X's grade reports. His firm is one of Bre-X's underwriters. The memo never leaves the building. In Calgary, a junior engineer at one of the Canadian banks holding Bre-X stock asks his manager why the drill cores have never been independently verified by a major firm. His manager tells him that is not what they pay him to ask. At least 4 different mining professionals across 3 continents raised private concerns about Bre-X between 1995 and 1996. Not one of them goes public. Because by 1996, Bre-X is generating underwriting fees, mutual fund commissions, exchange listing revenues, and stockbroker bonuses in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Everyone in the chain makes more money believing than checking. And so they believe. Until February 1997. Until Freeport-McMoRan, the Indonesian government under Suharto forces a deal. Bre-X will partner with Freeport-McMoRan, the American copper and gold giant, to develop the mine. Freeport sends its own geologists to Busang. They take their own drill cores. They fly them back to a laboratory in New Orleans. The samples contain almost no gold. Freeport calls Bre-X. They want a meeting. They want to walk the drill site together. They want to see exactly how the samples have been collected. The meeting is scheduled for March 19, 1997, at the Busang exploration camp. The night before, Michael de Guzman boards a helicopter for the short flight from the city of Samarinda to Busang. He brings a small carry-on bag. Inside it, his wallet, his Philippine passport, and his calendar. 20 minutes into the flight, the pilot reports that de Guzman has opened the cabin door and stepped out. The helicopter is at 800 meters. It is the morning of the meeting that would have exposed the largest mining fraud in history. The body is found 4 days later in a swamp 240 kilometers from the takeoff point. The face has been eaten by wild boars. The thumbs are missing. The wallet, the passport, and the calendar are intact. Authorities identify the body using dental records that have, to this day, never been independently verified by an outside dental authority. In 2005, 8 years later, his widow, Jeannie de Guzman, tells a Canadian television interviewer that she does not believe the body was her husband's. She says she believes Michael is alive somewhere in the Philippines. 8 days after his disappearance, Freeport-McMoRan issues a public statement. Their drilling has encountered, quote, insignificant amounts of gold. Bre-X stock falls 83% in one trading day. Strathcona Mineral Services, hired to investigate, releases its findings in May. The samples have been tampered with. Someone has been buying rounded river gold, crushing it, and adding it to the drill cores by hand. The technique is so primitive a single, competent assayer should have caught it within weeks. But for 3 years, no one did. Here is the story you have probably heard. A greedy Filipino geologist, a fooled financial system, a cautionary tale about due diligence. This is the wrong story. The Bre-X fraud was not sophisticated. The gold particles were the wrong shape. The grade reports were statistically impossible. The site was never independently audited until the company had been worth $6 billion for 2 years. The right question is not how Bre-X got away with it. The right question is why nobody was paid to catch them. Every major Canadian mutual fund held Bre-X. Every major Wall Street bank earned fees on Bre-X offerings. The Toronto Stock Exchange charged listing fees and gained prestige from having the world's largest gold strike trade on its floor. Every link in the chain was paid to keep believing. And so the chain kept believing. 8 years later, Theranos investors signed off on a blood test machine that did not work. 4 major audit firms reviewed the books. 16 years later, FTX moved customer deposits into a sister hedge fund's losses. 4 major audit firms reviewed the books. 18 years later, Nikola Motor rolled a truck down a hill and called it a working prototype. Investors lost $2 billion. In every case, the financial system was not deceived. It was incentivized. The deception worked because nobody was paid to break it. John Felderhoff is tried in Toronto for insider trading. 6-year trial. Acquitted in 2007. He retires to the Cayman Islands. He dies there in 2019. David Walsh dies of a brain aneurysm in his Bahamas home in 1998, 11 months after Bre-X collapses. He is 45 years old. The Busang site is now a national park. No commercial gold has ever been extracted from East Kalimantan. And Michael de Guzman, depending on which story you believe, either jumped from a helicopter, was pushed from a helicopter, or got off the helicopter somewhere else entirely, and is, somewhere, today, still alive. The Bre-X gold did not exist, but the people who profited from believing in it did exist, and the system that paid them to believe is still standing. Untold.